Peter David, writer of Stuff, has always been one of my favorite comic book writers. I like the way that he can deconstruct a superhero story. And he is a crazy liberal. And I am not insulting him in this instance, because in his But I Digress column, he has described himself as that. Nor am I going to be talking about his recent tax troubles. If you haven't seen in any of the news sites, he's got a large tax debt, and he's looking to his fans to help him pay it off. That's not what this video is about. I want to talk about something positive. Now, I want to focus on the fact that he wrote the Hulk, not the entire run. That'll be for another video. I'm going to talk about one specific issue, because a lot of talk these days is about politics in comic books. They call it diversity, but we're really talking about politics. And even though I disagree with the politics, and I'll get to that later, I love the way he handled it, which makes Incredible Hulk number 380 one of the best political comic books of all time. More than likely you've never heard of this issue, and it's easy to see why. At the time, the Incredible Hulk with Todd McFarlane art was popular, Incredible Hulk with Dale Keown's art was popular, and this was just a small issue tucked in the middle of all that, and it never got any hype. And on the cover even it says the Hulk does not appear in this issue. So for casual fans, there was no real reason to pick this up, unless you were this huge Doc Samson fan and had to have everything he appeared in. The book is about a character named Crazy 8, a character we have never seen before, and because of this issue we'll never see again. And what was funny is Peter David actually said he got letters that after this issue people wrote in because they were very upset because well, okay, spoilers. If you haven't read the book, by all means read the book. It's here, okay? But here you go, spoilers. She dies at the end. She gets electrocuted. That was the point. He wanted to make a statement and have people care about somebody who was on death row who ends up getting executed. And people got upset with that. And that's fine. It's good to get the conversation going, whether you agree with it or not. And once again, I'm going to save my politics for later. So you go along and you start to find out she killed this lady's husband, and now she's about to fry for it. And she's being belligerent, and she's being tough, and she's really not a sympathetic character. Or at least I didn't find her to be a sympathetic character. There are elements about her, and occasionally her shell breaks and you see inside, but never once do you really get the feeling that she was sorry for what she did. And it shows all around the stories of not only like right here you get people who know the victim, so you don't just get the story of the murder, you get the story of the victim, and that's very important to me and how I feel about things. So there's a lot of little tidbits that fall on either side of the pro or anti-death penalty issue in the comic book, which I find amazing in itself, because a lot of times, especially these days, and part of what we're all having a problem with is the fact that when somebody puts politics into a comic book, they say, well, this is my politics, and if you don't agree with it, you're wrong. They don't do like what's happening here, where you see politics and they say, well, this is one side, this is the other, what do you think? Now, granted, Peter David does make a statement of how he feels later, but for the ride you're on, he leaves it open for interpretation. Here you have Nick Fury recruiting Doc Samson. He wants him to go to talk to Crazy 88. I keep saying that, I'm sorry, the Kill Bill thing, Crazy 8, sorry. For those of you unfamiliar with the character of Doc Samson, he is a psychiatrist who also got doused with gamma radiation, not to the extent of the Hulk. His hair's green, but he doesn't do any changing. He does have super strength, but it's nowhere near on the level of the Hulk. And, oh, by the way, I'm just going to, little side note here. I forget the number, but there's an issue of the X Factor where Peter David wrote that they were all talking to Doc Samson. It's pure brilliance. I recommend that highly. Anyway, but I digress. Ha 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 ha. So Doc Samson goes to meet in Crazy 8, and it's his job to assess whether or not she is actually fit for what's about to happen. Whether is she fit to stand trial, is she crazy? Is she actually crazy 8 and not just incredibly angry and wants to kill somebody 8? So he keeps talking to her, and there are scenes where Peter David does have questions I felt were kind of leading, like Doc Samson doesn't want to describe anybody as, he doesn't want her to die, so he's trying to get something that's going to tell him that she's remorseful or she's feeling that she actually may be crazy. I got that sense from him a little bit. But I'm sorry, I'm reading along. I'm looking at the pages while I'm talking to you guys, keeping up with the story. But yeah, he agrees to talk to her. He agrees to see her, and he gets an idea that people already have their minds made up. Even the judge and such already have their minds made up, and they don't want him so much to go and find out if she's crazy as much as they want him to say, no, she should be killed. But of course he doesn't agree to that. He's going to make a fair assessment, which is good, because I mean, that's not just a heroic role to do, that's exactly what he should be doing. So he meets up with Crazy 8, and she gives him the business, and she acts like not very much crazy, just annoying. You know, she throws herself at him. Yeah, tries to sway him that way, because, you know, what man doesn't like that, right? So, you know, he, of course, doesn't bite, and they end up talking, and he's trying to get to know her a little bit. And once again, she's playing the belligerent villain type, you know, the tough girl. We've all met that person who just can't, she's got a hard candy shell, and you just can't break through it to the nugget center. I'm sure everybody's met that kind of person, not just women, but men as well. You know, they just can't show any kind of softness. But he keeps trying, he keeps talking, and in the end, she actually tells her story, and I love this origin of her name bit. She kills somebody, and she wrote the infinity symbol into his chest because it was her way of saying things never change, things always go on. And instead, the press saw it as an 8 and dubbed her Crazy 8, which is awesome because nobody picks their own nickname. You know, you could try to get the cool nickname, but the first moment, you know, you fart in public, somebody's going to call you Stinky for the rest of your life. You know, you have no choice over the matter. So, you know, she just goes off, and she does her thing. She doesn't want the shell to be broken, and what she doesn't realize is this is actually detrimental to her case. And of course that comes to a head when Doc Samson has to sit on the bench, or whatever it's called there, as a witness to say that, yeah, that she is competent enough and she has shown no remorse, so, you know, she is good for the punishment, which is execution. And so they give her the electric chair, and they're back at the cell. She's given the tough guy act, and I've seen this kind of paper tiger tough guy act before, and I like the fact that she calls Nick Fury Danger Mouse. That was a good reference, you know, points for Peter David on that. And Doc Savage wants to talk to her privately, so he sends Nick Fury away and says, hey, why did you do it? Why did you kill this man? And she gives basically the Michael Caine speech. However, this speech is about 15 or so years before the Michael Caine speech, where it's like, you know, some people just want to watch the world burn. I don't know why you're looking for a package wrapped in a nice little bow. But then she says, and maybe I wanted to check out, but I wanted to take as many bad guys with me. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And that alludes to the fact that the guy she killed is not a nice guy either. So it goes to the day of the execution, and Doc Samson is waiting for her, and that's when her exterior breaks. That's when the hard candy shell cracks, and you see the soft gooey center. She's scared. She doesn't want to go to the electric chair. She's changed her mind, and because all this time she is proudly walking to it, and now her own mortality is hitting her. And I love this. It makes her more human, and that's what you need for this story. He, of course, being Doc Samson, is stronger than her, and he subdues her and gets her to where she needs to be, which is the electric chair. Here we have another good moment where you see Doc Samson apologizes to her. He knows it's his duty to get her to the electric chair. And yet you can see in that last panel, he really does not want to do this. He is not comfortable with this duty, but he does it anyway. And then she is strapped down, and the switch is flipped, and she's done. She's killed. Peter David created this character for one reason and one reason only. She had to die at the end. That's it. And what's funny is he said that a lot of people wrote to him saying that they were upset that she had to die. I guess they were expecting the governor's reprieve at the end, but that's not coming because that's not the message that Peter David wanted to send. So with the deed done, Doc Samson looks and he sees the wife of the victim, and he goes over to her, tries to console, and she drops a picture, and he realizes that the wife of the victim is a friend of Crazy Eight's, and she begins to tell the story that she killed her husband when her husband was being abusive, and Crazy Eight took the fall for it. Realizing that he helped to put an innocent woman to death, he stumbles outside and there's people cheering her death. Hey, did she squeal? And he kind of loses it because he feels responsible that this person who didn't commit a crime died for a crime, basically for a crime she didn't commit. And he puts the guy up against the wall, and he says, no, she didn't squeal in the end, because it never ends, mirroring something that she said in the beginning of the book. And thus, Peter David's politics come out. Obviously, he is against the death penalty, and that's okay. People have their opinion on this. I believe that if you are shown that you cannot play well with others, you have to be removed from the sandbox. But the point is that Peter David's shown us what he believed in a good story, and he did not shove it down our throats, and he did not make us feel guilty for disagreeing with him if we disagree with him. I know some of you don't disagree, and that's fine. That's fine. But what we would see now is just the opposite. If we disagree, we are the bad people. The judge would have been, oh, we gotta kill her now. He would have been as bad as the people outside of the courthouse. The big flaw in the cloth is that she actually killed him. I mean, okay, sure, somebody offered to pay her. The friend paid her to kill him, but she still killed him. So, while there was more to the story, the crime that she died for was committed by her. So, even though he wants us to feel bad for her, she actually did kill the guy that she was killed for. So is it a perfect book? No, it isn't. It has its flaws, and I just pointed out at least one huge one. However, as a book that wants to take on an issue, I think it does it in a very mature way. We are left to our own devices as to whether we agree or disagree. And this is why I get mad when I see a lot of politics in comics now, because they are shoved down our throats, and we are bad people for disagreeing. So that was my opinion on the book and the subject at hand, the death penalty. What do you think? What did you think about the book? Where do you stand on the death penalty? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, you want to see more, please click like, share, subscribe to see more. I'm also on VidMe, and tips are accepted. I know I've gotten that point, I'm sorry. But most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, please, thank you very, very much for watching.